How's it going, guys? I'm Vivi and welcome back to some Ratchet & Clank. So this time I decided to come up with the top 5 list of memorable moments in the Ratchet & Clank series. Now sure, there's a bunch of Ratchet & Clank games and one could even come up with the top 10 list, but I decided to keep it short and sweet. And guys, this top 5 list is what I think. So share your own top 5 in the comment section below. So with that being said, guys, this video is pretty straightforward, so let's jump right into it. Coming in at number 5, the ending of the classic Ratchet & Clank game. Right after the deplanetizer aimed at New Quartu, the artificial planet which was created by Drek, Clank got blasted off and he ended up holding onto the edge of the deplanetizer. Ratchet and Clank, they almost fell to their death. Clank was able to save Ratchet just on time using his thruster pack. When I played this game as a kid for the very first time, this was just an awe moment for me. Ratchet said, "You'll be fine, Clank," and at that point Clank thought he was left alone to do his own thing. But no, Ratchet turned around and was like, "What are you doing? We still have an arm to fix." That moment, guys, is what sparked their friendship and upcoming adventures. Like, that was the start of the Ratchet and Clank series. And one thing the reimagining cannot beat is how their friendship was represented. In the classic game, they had their ups and downs, and they got through it. That's what made that game so special and different. And yep, that is why I decided to put this at number 5. Number 4, the Lombax Dimension. How many games had we gone through before reaching this point? Like, there's an actual story which involves Ratchet and his species. Just this feeling, reaching a point where the story focuses on Ratchet's backstory just a little. I mean, we're so used to Ratchet and Clank simply saving planets and stuff like that pretty much. This one aspect of the story which focuses more on the main protagonist, it just proves how much there's more to the Ratchet and Clank series. There's more to explore, and hopefully one day the team decides to explore the story of the Lombaxes just a little more. So with that being said, the Dimensionator, during this scene, it opens a portal in the Court of Azimuth, and this portal takes one to the Lombax dimension. The first time you played Tools of Destruction, weren't you just wondering, hey, what if Ratchet actually goes through with it? Will he leave his friends behind? You know, to join the species. His overall reaction, this overwhelming feeling he had, like, is this for real? Am I really going to join the Lombaxes? He was staring at his friends. Clank was just wondering, is Ratchet really gonna do this? Talwyn was absolutely frozen. She said absolutely nothing. She probably thought, hey Ratchet, if you want to do it, just do it. And of course, knowing Ratchet, he decided not to leave his friends behind. Especially the fact that the Dimensionator was in the hands of Tachyon. He just didn't want to risk anything. That moment, overall, having to make this big decision is pretty much why I decided to place this at number 4. Coming in at number 3, the death of Croc and Zephyr. Now guys, I was actually debating about this one. Should I place it at number 3? But anyways, now Croc and Zephyr and Ratchet, they were on board the Nebulox 7 prison. They were about to transfer Vendra Prague to the Vartax detention center. Now unfortunately, Nefton hired a bunch of thugs. They set up a bunch of bombs everywhere. Croc and Zephyr were tied up, bombs detonated, and Ratchet, he was able to escape, but he couldn't save them. Ratchet, he ended up on the Zarkov sector. He felt guilty. He felt very bad, of course. Pretty much, Croc and Zephyr, they were major characters from Tools of Destruction. They were Talwyn's best friends, right? She had no one. Ratchet and Clank were the only ones still alive who she cared about. But during the credit scene, we did see them as robot ghosts, the afterlife. They were still happy. They're still the same. They're happy. Now, honestly, guys, I wasn't expecting their death. I thought they would have escaped. I mean, they're robots. They could have come up with something. Plus, can't you just rebuild them? Now, some might say that their death was pretty forgettable. Were they mentioned that much throughout Into the Nexus? Of course, Ratchet and Talwyn were sad in the beginning, but we can also say that their death is what caused the events to take place. Think of it as avenging their friends. Due to that unfortunate event, they were even more determined to, you know, stop Vendra and Nefton Prague. So with all these ideas in mind, this was placed at number 3. Number 2, Clank taken by the Zoni. At the ending of Tools of Destruction, the Zoni kidnapped Clank. And why? Because Clank was apparently supposed to fulfill his destined role, to become the senior caretaker of the Great Clock. In other words, to inherit the clock from his father, Orvis. Right before that, Ratchet was feeling down. And this was right after they defeated Tachyon. Ratchet was wondering about his purpose and his father, you know, mentioned by Tachyon. Clank, being his best friend and closest friend, cheered him up, and it worked. But then the Zoni decided to show up. When Ratchet said let him go and Clank suddenly disappeared, the scene was just emotional. That look on Ratchet's face. I mean, how many adventures had they gone through? Clank was his best friend. Not only that, the fact that everyone gathered around and looked sad just made the scene a lot more emotional. This scene just showed how much of a friend Clank was to Ratchet. You could just tell by the look on his face, and that is why I decided to place this at number 2. With that being said, we now move on to number 1. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that you guys might have been expecting this one. Ratchet's death in A Crack in Time, well, his temporary death. This one really shocked me. Yes, he's the main protagonist. To see him die, yes, it's a shocker. But we're also talking about his father's friend. Best friend, well, until he betrayed the Lombaxes. This guy, who knew Ratchet's father, Kaidan, used his wrench and zapped Ratchet. I was not expecting this. I was not expecting Insomniac Games to add this sort of emotional twist. Yes, Ratchet survived thanks to Clank, but to think that Azimuth tried killing Kaidan's son, a Lombax who's been living alone for a long time, finds another Lombax and then decides to kill him? It's sad, right? Ratchet, he was curious about his race. To his surprise, he finds Azimuth, another Lombax, but eventually decides to kill him. Sure, Clank did go back 6 minutes using the Great Clock, but Ratchet, he did see the look on Azimuth's face, like he was actually about to kill him. Also, to think that Azimuth helped Ratchet in A Crack in Time, and then coming to this, it is sad. So that is why I decided to place this at number 1. Now there's another one I was thinking about. Imagine placing this one between 2 and 1, call it 1.5, or call it an honorable mention, I think that's the words you use anyways. It's Alistair's death. He eventually realized his mistake. Ratchet told him the clock is not a time machine. He realized his mistake, tried fixing it, and then ended up sacrificing his own life. Some of you might think, hey, the dude deserved it, he tried killing Ratchet. Think of this, what if Azimuth had other intentions during that scene? Who knows what was going on in his mind? He probably told himself, I should have died instead of Kaidan. Perhaps he thought of joining the afterlife to see Kaidan again. He knew that what he was about to attempt was dangerous, and he probably knew that it was gonna cost his life. Perhaps he wanted that. Plus, didn't he say, take care, Ratchet? That was like his goodbye. And also probably told himself, if I can't go back in the past, I'll just join Kaidan in the afterlife, and I hope he'll forgive me. These could perhaps be the stuff that he was thinking about during that scene. Azimuth was simply an emotional wreck. It got so out of control at one point that he killed Ratchet. Okay, maybe he thought of, hey, it's time travel, I don't care what I do, but just the act of doing so, it just showed how Azimuth was unstable. Anyways guys, I know this isn't really part of the top 5, but I decided to add that in this video somewhere. Now, I'm sure a lot of you realized that this top 5 list has to do with the Future Saga overall. Thing is, comparing the classic games on the PS2 with the Future Saga, the older games, it felt like Ratchet and Clank simply going on adventures and saving a bunch of planets. Well dude, duh, it's Ratchet and Clank, they're saving planets all the time. But, hear me out. The Future Saga, I feel, has a deeper story aspect to it. Ratchet and the Lombaxes, Clank, his father, the Zoni, Max Apogee, the Dimensionator. It just added so much more to the series. But guys, with that being said, I'm gonna leave it at that. So, like I said in the beginning, leave your own top 5 list in the comment section below. And as always, I've been Vivi and thanks for watching.